we all kind of walk around thinking we're in the driver's seat online. You log on, you scroll, you pick what you watch, who you follow. We feel like we're designing our own little digital world, right?
Yeah.
But what if? What if that feeling of control is just, wrong? What if the system isn't just reacting to you? What if it's actually deciding what you'll become? The stuff we looked into, the source material, it pushes this really unsettling idea that you don't shape your feeds. Your feeds are actively shaping you. Okay, so let's unpack that. That's our goal for this deep dive. We're diving into that murky area where psychology meets tech. We've got research, articles, even some design docs, all pointing to how these algorithms have changed. They've gone from just, predicting things to actually influencing things. We need to get our heads around how they grab your attention, maybe even rewrite what you want, and sort of quietly rebuild who you are.
Yeah, and it's key for you listening to understand the frame here. This isn't just about ads trying to sell you something you already kind of wanted. The sources we dug into, they're talking about something deeper. Identity, like your actual sense of self in this world curated by machines. It forces you to look past the screen and face this really weird possibility that maybe we're becoming the algorithm's creation, not just its user.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because this huge psychological project, it starts small, like super small, with the things you do every day online without even thinking. We have to start with the basics. How data gets collected right now, constantly. Think about it every scroll, every time you pause, even for a second on a picture, every app switch, it's all logged, every single bit.
Exactly. And it's not just the obvious stuff like clicks, it's the how. The sources really stress this metadata aspect. Things that measure responses you don't even consciously control, like dwell time, how long your gaze lingers on something. You scroll past a political rant fast. That's data. You pause for 3 seconds on some random photo. That signals something stronger, maybe fear, maybe desire, maybe just curiosity. It's like they're mapping your inner landscape without you saying a word.
And all those tiny little bits of data, what do they add up to?
That's what the research is calling your digital fingerprint. But it's way more dynamic than just a list of things you like. Think of it as a live dossier. It tells the system your weak spots, emotionally speaking. It shows the algorithm not just your preferences, but the exact mix of things that keeps you scrolling or makes you anxious or give you comfort. It's less about your past choices and more like a predictive model of your future behavior in real time.
Okay, so the data gets gathered nonstop, building this fingerprint. That's Act 1. But the big shift, the real whoa moment in these sources, it's the jump from just predicting what you'll do to actively making you do it. Like originally it was simple prediction, watch X, so maybe you'll like Y, but it's gotten way more sophisticated.
Right, if you connect the dots.
Yeah.
It moved from just recommending stuff to actually generating behavior. Prediction is like, okay, 70% of people with your profile click on Z. Creation is proactively showing you A, B, and C. First, the specific little nudges that make it almost inevitable you'll feel the urge to click Z. The sources are clear. The algorithm is now built to spark that impulse inside you, making you think, oh, I just decided to click that.
Hold on, though. Isn't that just really good marketing? I mean, how do we know it's actually rewriting desires, not just finding existing ones better?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's subtle. The analysis points to how the system is always pushing boundaries, testing new things on you. Remember maybe getting ads for some super niche hobby, like collecting antique spoons or something you'd never searched for. The algorithm might have seen you pause on certain historical images, maybe linked your taste in documentaries, correlate it with existing spoon collectors who match your, let's say, psychological profile. Then it just gently introduces the idea, sees if you pause. If you linger just a fraction longer, boom, it reinforces it until maybe, just maybe, a new interest starts to form.
Wow. So the system kind of plants these seeds, these impulses, that we then think are our own unique ideas. Which brings us straight to that whole free will thing, this illusion of choice in a world swimming in data. If the algorithm can basically set up the dominoes A, B, C so that Z is the likely outcome, if it engineers the decision before we even feel like we're making one, where does me end and the algorithm begin?
And the research shows the system isn't just trying to get you to click more, it's trying to keep you on the platform longer, maximize duration. And to do that, it has to hit certain emotional notes again and again. Which brings us to, some pretty intense language in the sources. The psychological warfare behind the design. This isn't accidental, it's engineered. It targets known human cognitive biases.
Psychological warfare. Okay, let's make that concrete for people listening. What are some specific design tricks used to keep us hooked?
Well, one paper we read highlighted a couple of big ones. First, the infinite scroll. Simple, right? but deadly effective. It removes the natural starting point, like the end of a page or a chapter. Your brain never gets that task complete signal. Second, variable rewards. Think notifications, likes, new posts. They don't arrive predictably. It's random, like a slot machine. Psychologically, that's called a variable reinforcement schedule, and it's incredibly powerful for forming habits, even addictions. Your brain just keeps seeking that next unpredictable hit.
And when you combine that endless loop with the super personalized fingerprint, the manipulation isn't generic, it's tailored. Just for you. Which leads us right into the identity issue. How does all this actually change who we are?
The analysis really breaks it down into three main impacts on identity. First, like we said, manipulating your attention, focusing it where the algorithm wants. Second, rewriting desires, planting those seeds we talked about. But the third one, this is the heaviest. It's the quiet, systematic reconstruction of your identity.
Reconstruction? That sounds, I know, almost like science fiction.
It works like a feedback loop. The algorithm figures out which version of your ire, maybe a certain look, certain political leanings, certain lifestyle goals, gets the most engagement, the most clicks, the longest dwell time. And then it just feeds you more content that reinforces that specific version of you. So you see this optimized user X reflected back at you in your feed constantly. And subconsciously, maybe you start leaning into those traits more because they're always being validated, always normalized by what you see.
So it reinforces a version of you, a version the machine calculated would be the most engaging or maybe most profitable, and you start kind of living up to that algorithmic reflection.
Precisely. And this leads to, I think, the most chilling quote from the material we reviewed. We have to highlight this. The idea that the modern self might just be, and I'm quoting here, a collection of machine-curated impulses. Just let that sink in. The things you feel passionate about, the beliefs you hold. Could they be less from your own soul-searching and more from a feedback loop designed just to keep your eyes glued to a screen? You essentially become a very polished caricature drawn from your data points.
That really is the ultimate challenge these sources throw down, isn't it? We went from a system that guessed what you might like, a one that seems to be actively molding you into someone predictable, someone profitable. So let's bring it full circle. If this digital world is built to kind of hijack our decision-making, how do we get back control? How do we protect our sense of self?
And that forces us to confront that really haunting question of control. We like to think we know ourselves best, right? But the research is pretty clear. The algorithm, with its view across billions of interactions, it sees patterns in your behavior you're not even aware of. It might identify your emotional triggers, your predictable reactions, your vulnerabilities, maybe even before you recognize them yourself.
The machine understands the weak points in our mental wiring, and it's optimized to exploit them. That kind of deep understanding just flips the whole power dynamic.
It really does. If the system knows that showing you this specific sequence of content will likely trigger that specific feeling or nudge you towards that political viewpoint, and if the whole structure is designed to achieve those engineered outcomes, then you have to ask, who's really steering the ship? Is it the conscious you? Or is it this highly optimized machine-generated reflection of you that exists only in the data streams?
That's the sharp warning from this deep dive today, crystal clear. You're not just using the algorithm anymore. You're actually fundamentally becoming its creation. This isn't just about how much time you spend online. It's about who gets to define who you are.
And think about this. This whole massive system, it runs on your data. Every tiny pause, every scroll, every time you react, seeking comfort or maybe outrage from your feed, it all feeds the machine. So we'll leave you with this to chew on. Now that you know this, how might it change how you use your feed next time? Knowing that every single interaction is data shaping the next version of you the machine will try to build. What might you do differently?